I'm Kryn, standing in the middle of my parents' living room, surrounded by 40 pairs of eyes. I felt like a criminal on trial. My mother stood at the microphone, her voice cold and accusing. "We're here because you're selfish, ungrateful, and tearing this family apart." My father held a long list of my so-called sins, and my sister, Lily, pointed her phone at me, live, streaming on Instagram. As they ranted, I sat still, my hands clenched on my knees. When they finally finished, I took a deep breath and pulled out my phone. Funny, I've been recording too. The room went deathly silent as the first recording played, shattering the carefully constructed lies in an instant. It all started 3 months ago. I'm an ER nurse in a small town outside Boston. After a grueling 16-hour shift, I sat in my car in the hospital parking lot, exhausted. My phone buzzed with messages. Mom asked me to pay the property tax this month as Dad's business was in a slump. Lily wanted $500 for a new photography course to develop her Instagram brand. And Dad sent a photo of a large plumbing bill. I did the math. The property tax, Mom's medical insurance, Lily's student loan payment, and the groceries I bought every week cost me about $2,500 a month, more than half of my take-home pay. I lived in a small studio apartment with second-hand furniture and drove an old 2012 Ford Focus. I hadn't taken a vacation in 10 years since I started working, but I never complained. My grandmother, Rose, had taught me that family comes first. One Sunday at my parents' house, Mom was excited about Lily's Instagram account. She had over 3,000 followers and was becoming quite popular. When I mentioned I'd been promoted to a team leader at the hospital, Mom just casually asked me to get the salad from the fridge. Lily arrived an hour late with a cheap bottle of wine and got a big hug from Mom, while I'd been there since 3 p.m. helping with dinner prep. I noticed Lily's new diamond earrings. They looked exactly like Grandma Rose's. When I asked, Lily said Aunt May had given them to her, claiming Grandma didn't want them anymore. Mom suddenly became very interested in her food. I knew Grandma wore those earrings every time I visited, but I let it go. 3 months before my 32nd birthday on a Wednesday evening, I went to my parents' house to pick up a book I'd left. The back door was unlocked as usual. I heard voices in the kitchen. Mom and Lily were talking about me. "We'll do it on her birthday. Everyone is coming. We'll tell her she's selfish and controlling us with money," Mom said. Lily laughed and said she'd filmed the whole thing for her Instagram. I stood there, my heart pounding. It felt like the ground had opened up beneath me. I quietly backed out, got in my car, and sat there for half an hour. Then I called my best friend, Ava, a lawyer. I told her everything. She asked if I still had the voice recording app I'd installed after a patient's family threatened to sue the hospital. She advised me to start using it. Over the next few weeks, I started recording every time I was at my parents' house. The first week, nothing interesting happened. Mom talked about a community event, and Dad watched a baseball game. The second week, I was in the kitchen when I heard Dad on the phone in the garage. His voice was soft and sweet. "Yeah, Sue, Friday works. My wife thinks I'm at a business meeting." I realized Dad was having an affair. The fourth week, I arrived early. Mom's bedroom window was open a crack. I heard her talking to Aunt May on the phone. "My husband doesn't know I took $18,000 from Mom's estate. He thinks the antique sale didn't make much," Mom said. Aunt May replied, "Smart move." And I sold Rose's diamond bracelet for $1,200. "If she asks, we'll say it's at the jeweler." I stood there, stunned, as they laughed about stealing from Grandma. 2 weeks before my birthday, Ava sent me screenshots of Facebook messages. Mom had invited my supervisor, Tom, and 2 colleagues from the hospital, saying it was a surprise birthday party and she hoped they could show support. I knew if Tom saw my mother publicly humiliate me, it would ruin my reputation at work. Ava and I came up with a plan. 10 days before my birthday, we sat in her car outside a coffee shop. She laid out the ground rules. Walk in like it's a normal party, let them talk without interrupting, ask to talk privately when they're done, and if they refuse, play the recordings. On the day before my birthday, I visited Grandma Rose at the nursing home. She held my hand and said, "My dear, no matter what happens, remember who you are." You're a strong and kind girl." She also casually asked about her bracelet, and I lied, saying I was sure it would turn up. When I left, she sent me a text. "You're the best of us. I'm always proud of you." On my birthday night, I walked into my parents' living room. The place was filled with people. Mom stepped up to the microphone and started her speech, accusing me of being selfish and ungrateful. Dad read the long list of my wrongdoings from childhood. When they finished, I asked to talk privately, but they refused. So I pulled out my phone and said, "Funny, I've been recording too." The first recording of Dad's affair filled the room. Mom's face turned ashen, and Dad lunged forward, trying to stop the playback. The second recording about the money and the bracelet made the room erupt in murmurs. Lily's husband, Jake, heard her bad, mouthing him on the third recording, and left without a word. After playing all the recordings, I calmly announced that starting that night, I would no longer pay for their bills. Mom was shocked and tried to stop me, but I was firm. As I was leaving, Tom stood up and said, "I've worked with you for 8 years. I know who you are. This doesn't change anything at the hospital, and my respect for you just went up." In the following days, Dad moved out to a small apartment. Lily's marriage fell apart, and she deleted her Instagram. Aunt May was ostracized by the family after the bracelet incident. Mom still calls me sometimes, but I've learned to set boundaries. Now, I've paid off my student loans, opened a retirement account, and bought a small plant for my apartment. I visit Grandma Rose every weekend. I've finally found my own voice and learned that setting boundaries is not selfish, but a way to protect myself. The truth may have broken the false peace in my family, but it also set me free.